Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Willie, and this is the encouraging word for today. When I was a little boy, maybe about 9, 10, I remember a Bible that I think my mother had in the house. It was one of those old Bibles. It had like gold plating or gold coloring on the edges of the pages, and it had pictures in it of the scenes, some of the scenes. And I can remember looking through it and coming to the book of Daniel, which I didn't really know was the book of Daniel, and seeing this beautiful, it was like a painting, it must have been a famous painting of Daniel in the lion's den. And it just amazed me how he was in the lion's den. There were lions, and they were not biting him, they were not killing him. And that I can still see that picture in my mind. It must be a famous masterpiece of a painting. And Daniel is one of the most holy people in the Bible. In fact, when God is looking for examples of holy people, he mentions Daniel. So he mentions Daniel. And so we remember that Daniel, when he was a young man, determined in his heart, determined in his heart not to eat the food, not to defile himself. So everything in life begins with the heart. It's an inside-out life that we live. He determined in his heart. That's where it started. And sometimes we start out like that, but things shift us. But as I read through the book of Daniel, I get to chapter 6, which is what that picture is based on, Daniel in the lion's den. And there's some key points here. So number one is that Daniel rose to the top. He was at the top. He was he was the top administrators because God was blessing him because he put God first in his heart. And then what happened? There was jealousy against him. And you can expect that. When God blesses you, people are going to be jealous and they try to take him down. They want to take him down. So they make this elaborate plan that people would have to pray. But first, before that, this is what happens. They're trying to find a way, his enemies are trying to find a way to accuse him to the king. And in verse 4, it says this of chapter 6 of Daniel. At this, the administrators and satraps tried to find grounds for charges against Daniel in his conduct of government affairs, but they were unable to do so. They could find no corruption in him because he was trustworthy and neither corrupt nor negligent. Could that be said about you? People look at you or look at me and said, there's no grounds for charges against this person. They're not corrupt in any way. And at that time, everybody was corrupt in government. And they're not negligent. They're trustworthy and not corrupt and negligent. So his character, it started in his heart, but his character, and he wasn't going around wearing a Jesus t-shirt. No, it was his character. He had this character that there was no defect in his character. Everything he did, every interaction, probably even when he spoke to them, he spoke politely and with respect to them. And everything he did it with all his heart, even though he was working for a quote-unquote secular, in a secular position for an evil king. He did everything, could find no corruption in him. And you know what they finally decided to do? In verse 5 it says, finally these men said, we will never find any basis for charge against this man, Daniel, unless it has something to do with the law of his God. Wow! Can you imagine if that could be said about you and me? We'll never find anything wrong with that person unless it's based on something he's doing because God told him to do it. There's nothing in his character that was half in, half out. He was pure before God and man. That brought jealousy, yes, but he didn't respond in the same way. That brought attacks, as we will see in part 2. But what I want you to get today is that everything started in his heart, and then his character was unassailable. And God, I want that character also. So I encourage you today, make that your goal in life, that people would look at you, look at me and say, we cannot find anything wrong with them unless it has to do with the law of their God. Maybe that would be something like, I go worship God on Sunday. I can't work on Sundays. If that's what God tells you, praise God. But nothing else could be found in Daniel. And that's a beautiful, beautiful example of character. And I want to have that character and that to be said of me also. And I know you do too. God bless you, and I will see you tomorrow.